Well, ladies and gentlemen, the Dragon Age The Veilguard director has finally responded after all the backlash that has been facing the game and all the criticism that the game has received for being heavy-handed in its overly ridiculous identity political message that is obviously in this game, this whole trans ideology that has taken over this game completely. Well, with that being said, the director has actually finally responded in an interview with Inverse, and this interview is so insane, it's going to make you realize very quickly exactly why this game went down the rabbit hole that it did.
Yes! Hell yeah!
Now again, ladies and gentlemen, Dragon Age The Veilguard has been an absolute failure. You're going to have a whole bunch of shills out there try to say, no, it's totally not a failure, when at the end of the day, it is, okay? The game is a failure. It hasn't even announced 1 million sales at all. The game is trying to dodge every single question of accountability on top of questions about sales. They don't want to talk about it. They don't even talk about sales in this particular interview. They haven't talked about sales at all. You know what they've been talking about? They've been talking about how happy the game makes them. They've been talking about how happy the developers are that they made this game. That's what they've been talking about. How happy that the game makes them feel and how safe, apparently, that the game makes them feel. Because apparently, according to the director of Dragon Age, you are not able to feel safe unless you self-insert yourself into the video game that you're making. It's the most insane thing that I've ever read, and I can't wait to bring it to you. So let's get into this article, guys, from Fandom Pulse. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. So the headline reads, Dragon Age The Veilguard game director responds to the backlash and says being trans shaped everything about who I am. The Veilguard game director, a man who pretends to be a woman and calls himself Corin Bush, responded to the backlash against the game while also asserting that his mental illness has shaped everything about who he is. Speaking with Inverse, Bush declared that I'm an openly queer trans woman. It shaped everything about who I am, and it's been the source of a lot of joy, a lot of difficulty, and perspective. For me personally, one of the greatest gifts about being trans is the amount of introspection that it forces upon you. You spend a lot of time deeply examining who you are and why that matters, he added. Well, apparently you're not, because you can't figure it out, right? That's the whole point. You don't even like yourself. You don't like the way you were born. So, you end up with this mental illness that thinks you're a woman. But at the end of the day, that's not really what this is, right? This is not actual, genuine gender dysphoria. Most of the trans people that exist right now are not suffering from actual gender dysphoria. It's very clear. I mean, in my opinion anyway, it's very clear that you can see that they are basically just following a fad. They realize that it gets some attention. They realize that it gets them a certain level of protection, especially when you're in the AAA gaming industry. There's a certain level of protection that is afforded trans people that regular, quote unquote, regular people don't have. So a lot of these people who are trans are usually white men that go trans because they know that otherwise their job is going to be on the line. At least that's how it seems to me. For me, personally, again, one of the greatest gifts about being trans, the amount of introspection. I don't understand how this gives you introspection, but, whatever. He then admitted his mental illness was injected into the game. He noted that thinking about the role introspection plays on people in general and how each of us go through our lives having these moments of crisis, epiphanies, and those quiet moments when you're alone. There are questions that are ripe for personalized experiences like RPGs, especially when you consider our biggest creative pillar, be who you want to be. Furthermore, he stated that pushing transgender ideology into the game felt like the right time. Now, again, we've seen so many examples of this game. There's so many clips out there, so many, I played the game, okay? I played the game on Griffcast. I played it to completion, and I killed everybody, okay? Because I was fucking over it. The game was absolute trash, and I played it because I wanted to showcase transparency for those people who were looking to see what the game was actually about and not what people told them it was about. So I let them see the game for what it was, and nobody was impressed, okay? I can't imagine that I sold the game to anybody who ended up watching me play this absolute trash heap. Then later in the interview, Bush also responded to the backlash of the game, which highly criticized the injection of transgender ideology in its attempt to normalize it. Not only was it criticized for attempting to normalize the transgender ideology, but it was also accused of being anti-white Endymion stated every single villain in this game is either a white man or a woman. They also make every faction led by either a woman, like in the case of the Grey Wardens or the Antivan Crows, which are led by a black elf woman and some other guy. White men are always the bad guy, he added, like in Treviso, where the Antivan Crows reside. There's a traitor there is kind of hinted at early on in the story that is working with Adam Kunari to, place the power of the Kunari over the city, and it's so obvious it's the governor. And surprise, it is exactly. And of course, when you look at him, what is he? Of course, he's a white man. And of course, you kill him in combat during the Treviso Final Faction mission. And everyone basically says, oh, that guy sucks and we're glad he's dead. Like I said, this entire game, I kid you not, hates white people openly. It's disgusting. It's so obviously done on purpose, he declared. And listen, man, Dragon Age of Veilguard's not the only game that's doing this. There's so many games out there that are anti-white. It's absolutely ridiculous. And most of these games are made by white people, which makes it even more pathetic. A white guilt white person is probably your biggest enemy. I would never trust a white person who is suffering from white guilt because they are capable of anything, literally anything, to make themselves look better because they feel like they are responsible for something they didn't do. Imagine going through your life and you're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry about what my ancestors did 100 years ago. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's like, bro, shut the fuck. Who cares? Like, what are you talking about? You weren't even there. You drink Starbucks every day. Let's be real here. Then Bush responded to the criticism, stating, I think we should talk about it. It's hard. I grew up in a time when it really felt like we're there to celebrate games and have these shared experiences. And that drive is still there. I think the discourse we see is a result of highly polarized times and perhaps is a little naive. He continued, I know it's hard when you have to ask the question, is this game for me? Do I belong here? And games are better for it when we can say, yes, you do belong here. So if that's the case, okay, if that's the case, if games are better when you can say you belong here, then why do you constantly tell people if they don't like it, don't buy it? Why do you constantly tell people, oh, if you don't like this ideology, get out, basically? Like, you guys are the literal, like, you're anti what you're just saying right now. None of you guys actually believe that. You only want people that think like you in your space. You only want people that think like you playing your video game. You only want them being the ones promoting your game because you know they're all going to say positive things about your game. And that's it, man. It's a formula of toxic positivity. It's absolutely insane. Now, this is the most insane comment that I'm about to read. And this is the part where I was like, wow, this is next level ridiculous. Nevertheless, Bush also made it clear that he will continue to push messaging in whatever games he works on next. Games are inherently diverse when you think about the size of these teams and the specializations you have within them. When you have diverse, complex, large groups of people coming together to make something, of course the game is going to be a reflection of those teams. He continued, I think we need to consider that we can make the most authentic, best experiences when we're trying into what makes us developers and you as the fans, when we can tie into those elements that make us distinctly human. And that means differences. And then he says, what I long for is just that opportunity for us as gamers to step back and get in touch with why we fell in love with games in the first place and recognize how difficult and complicated and messy it is to make games, to share these vulnerable experiences and just approach it with a little greater sense of kindness and curiosity. No, absolutely not. Let's not sit here and pretend that suddenly everybody's supposed to care how things are made. Okay, and I say this all the time. There is nobody in this world that gives a crap about how anything is made. The only thing that people even remotely care about how it's made is their food, and that's at the bare minimum. Most people don't even care about that these days. But nobody cares how your shoes are made. Nobody cares how your t-shirt is made. Nobody cares how your phone is made. And nobody cares how your car or computer is made. All you care about is whether or not it works and whether or not it has a warranty. That's all you give a shit about. So let's not sit here and pretend now suddenly we're supposed to be like, oh, it's very hard to make video games. We got to care about these developers and how hard it is. And even though the game is terrible, we need to sit here and feel bad for them. And it's a pity party. It's a fuck. Like, shut the fuck up. Nobody cares about any of that. And you're fooling yourself if you think otherwise. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.